Hi, and welcome everybody at this live session from Skyline. My name is Ben, I'm the CEO at Skyline, and it's my pleasure to host this session where we are going to talk about DataMiner as a trailblazing xOps platform. A platform designed to transform companies, industries, and cities, to transform them into agile, data-driven powerhouses. And that's very important. We will talk very extensively about that. What is an agile, data-driven powerhouse, and why is it so important, and why is it so strategic? And what is the role of an xOps platform in achieving that? Because everybody probably noticed it, we are really truly living in exceptional times. We are transitioning from one era into a new era. Of course, DataMiner has been around for quite some time. We have been very active in three key verticals: satellite, service providers, and broadcast and media industry. And within those verticals, we pretty much manage everything, okay? In the satellite industry, we manage anything from earth stations and video platforms and data platforms. In service providers, we do the exact same. We do the complete outdoor networks, DTT networks, down to set-top boxes and OTT clients, as well as in the broadcast and media industry, MCRs, playouts, contribution platforms, studios, you name it. DataMiner is really an end-to-end single pane of glass. That's how it started. But of course, DataMiner, and that's part of our reputation, has always been really a pioneer, continuously evolving and continuously innovating. And that's what we have continuously done, and what has really resulted in the success that we had in all those three verticals. Across the world, in over 100 countries, leading companies in these verticals are relying on DataMiner to manage their day-to-day operation. And while we have been evolving again and again and again over time, more recently, we have really looked at what is the world going to look like in the coming 5 to 10 years? What are the key essential changes? And really realizing that we are stepping into a new era, we embarked on a bold mission to reinvent DataMiner. And rather than evolve it, to transform it into an xOps platform. And of course, that's a journey. That's a journey that we have been on for quite a bit of time right now, because it was a major transformation. And that journey has already paid off, because today DataMiner is also emerging as the key platform in a lot of other verticals. I'm talking about utility grids, for example. I'm talking about smart ecosystems like smart cities, Industry 4.0, fleet management, etc., etc. And you see some of the screen captures there of implementations that have been done already with that DataMiner platform. And that's because what I'm going to talk about today is so fundamental. It's about something that applies everywhere in the world. Whatever aspect, whatever part of the world, whatever vertical, whatever you look at, okay, this xOps proposition is very, very much part of the core essence of what is happening. And it's in this session that we want to talk to you about it, but because we are very excited, and we think that it's going to be a very a revolution for a lot of people, and how DataMiner can bring them into that new era. Now, let's start where it begins. First of all, we have to realize the sun is setting on digital transformation. Okay, we have been talking about digital transformation for quite a long time now, and we continue to talk about it. But we have to realize this is a transformation. Okay, this is about transforming from one entity into a new entity, and at some point, we need to stop talking about that. And today, I want to bring a message that digital transformation is really nearing its end. Why? Because if you look at it and take a little bit of a distance, the last decades we lived in the digital era. The digital era is where we started introducing more and more software components, and in a very generalized sense. Okay, software components that run on general purpose compute platforms, and we were kind of installing all of those software components across different use cases, different platforms, different teams, different departments, different tasks. You have things, of course, like the smartphone, which is a software platform with a general compute capability, where we kind of transformed, and we always see this convergence also. Okay, a smartphone, for example, has replaced a lot of classic point solutions, a calculator, an agenda, and all of those items. You know, the typical convergence picture around the smartphone, and that's happening everywhere. The introduction of IP has introduced and has absorbed a lot of point solutions, specific like ISDN, for example, for voice or whatever other types of formats. And today, for example, in the media industry, we also see a shift from legacy proprietary ASI, SDI to IP. So all of that is happening. But the key thing is, we were doing this in different pockets. And we were never looking at really the bigger picture. And what is the bigger picture here? And it's very important to understand today that we come at some sort of an inflection point, a tipping point where you start realizing that while you are digitizing, introducing software and cloud and IP and all those components and new sensors, and of course that technology is also evolving. 10 years ago, it was a simple sensor. Today, it's a sensor with embedded edge AI capabilities, for example. But as we are doing this in different applications, different use cases, different departments, a new ecosystem starts to emerge. And that new ecosystem is much more than just the sum of all the different components. And that leads me to saying we are going into the data-driven era. So digital transformation is a fundamental transformation that impacts everything that you can think about. How we build a company, how we run a company, how we organize ourselves, how we need to really be successful in that new environment. Everything is literally impacted by that. And today, the data-driven era is there. So if we need to look at digital transformation and where we are in that transformation process, I would say we are pretty much there, okay? And an evidence of that is also the fact that we used to have digital natives, companies that are born and grown in the digital era. But I don't know if you noticed, today we start seeing the first companies that are really native to the data-driven era. And this is changing the entire dynamics. We can see, for example, in the startup community, startup companies that really grow very, very fast. But equally, we see increasingly more startup companies growing very fast, but also failing again very, very, very fast. And the reason for that is because things are moving so quickly. So this is really a new environment. Some people say, for example, they are very excited about looking forward to soon see the first one-man company that will have 1 billion in revenue. And that's the new era that we live in. But we have to understand it is a transformation. It is a fundamental transformation. And if you come from the digital era and you are a classic company, you have to go through a very fundamental transformation to become a new entity with new properties. And again, it's a little bit like the graphical presentation here. You're not longer going to live on that branch. You're going to live in the sky with different laws and different dynamics. So this is a very fundamental transformation. So this begs the question. Are you digitally transformed? In other words, did you achieve the goals of digital transformation? And it's an interesting question because I ask that question a lot to customers and people that we work with. And interestingly enough, people really are very challenged in answering that question and giving a clear answer to that. And that's unfortunate because as an organization, you should have a clear mission about what it is that you need to become. And I think today that's really what we want to talk about, because an xOps platform is everything that you can imagine about moving into that new era and becoming that new entity that can flourish and grow and be successful in that new environment that is subject to different laws and different dynamics, completely different as compared to any time before. So let's kind of try to define it. If I need to define it in one single word, what is a DataMiner xOps platform going to deliver? It's agility. And agility in the broadest sense, because we know agile, of course, from a software development world, but agility applies everywhere. Because if there's one thing that we can be sure about in this new world, it's about the fact that you have to be ready to expect the unexpected. I think that's by now probably very, very clear for everybody. Okay, it's hard to predict how the world is going to look like in 6 months from now, in a year from now, and in 10 years from now. So the only thing that you can do is to be ready to expect the unexpected. And that's what agility is all about. It's the definition from the dictionary. It's your ability to accelerate, decelerate, and change directions. And essentially, the xOps proposition is all about how can we bring that agility into an organization. And if you zoom in a little bit more, and if I can define it then rather than with one word in a complete sentence, I would say it's about transforming into an agile, data-driven powerhouse, focusing on creative value delivery. That's kind of the key objective of the DataMiner xOps platform, to be able to transform organizations into agile, data-driven powerhouses, focusing on creative value delivery. And let's break it down. First of all, agile, as I said already. Be ready to expect the unexpected. Be ready to evaluate the landscape, the competitive landscape, the technology landscape, the geopolitical landscape, and everything, your competitors, your business models, and continuously evolve. Okay, your agility is about the ability to really seize every opportunity that you see, because that's going to be a classic. That's going to be a classic where you're going to see an opportunity and you need to seize that opportunity. You need to capitalize on that opportunity because it's not going to last forever. And at the end of the day, everybody will be jumping on that specific opportunity. So it's all about how quickly can we evolve and how agile you are. Okay, so the next thing is data driven. We always said data is the oil, the new oil. I would actually say data is now the soil of any organization. It's the only thing that sets you apart. Okay, you can have a media business and transition to IP, and you can transition to cloud, and you can do all the fancy stuff, or you can start using LLMs or whatever it is. That's not your key differentiator. That's not going to set you apart from other organizations. Okay, the only thing that is truly unique to yourself is your data and your controls and your environment and how you leverage all that potential that is out there. This is really what you need to cherish. This is when you build a next generation organization. If you want to build an organization that is ready for success in the future, you have to cherish that. And you have to really bring that data into a position where you can leverage it. And that's what an xOps platform is also about. And last but not least, it's about creative value delivery. At the end of the day, this is an exciting world, and you can do so many exciting things. And especially if you're an engineer and you look at it, you see so much opportunity and fascinating things that you can do. It's endless. However, what is value? What are your goals of your organizations? What can you do to have an impact? That value delivery mindset is so important in the future. And you want to make sure, because the only thing that is going to be limited in an organization, whether you're a one-man company or 100 people or 1,000 or 10,000, it doesn't really matter. The only thing that is limited is your capacity, the time that you have to be able to accomplish certain things. So the more of that time that you can focus on creative value delivery, making an impact, delivering contributions towards the goals. And your goals could be anything: reducing your footprint. It could be about running your operation more efficiently, making things more secure. It doesn't really matter. Okay, whatever it is, it will be rooted in data and control capabilities. And the only question is, if you have bright ideas and innovative ideas where you can say, hey, we can use that new ecosystem to shave off 2% gain over here in this manufacturing, or for example, the way we manage our electrical vehicle fleet, or whatever it may be, it doesn't really matter. Okay, it's all about how quickly can you go from the innovative idea to an implementation that delivers that value. And you definitely don't want to burn time with things like security and complexity and all of that. So this is very important. This is exactly what it is. And we can continue to zoom in. We can continue to zoom in, and get more details on what that looks like. What does an xOps operation look like? Okay, how do you operate as an agile, data-driven powerhouse? And it starts again with that transformational technology. That's the bottom layer. Okay, that's my IP switches, that's my software, that's my cloud, that's my sensors, that's my connected machines. Everything is generating data, better data, more intelligent data. Again, it's a very exciting ecosystem with unlimited potential. But is the key differentiator the fact that you run and operate in that environment, that you use that technology? By no means. You can easily use all that technology and miss out on all the opportunities to reduce costs, to be more efficient, and all those things. You can easily miss out on that. Why? Because you need to be able to take that environment and to create what we call a composable technology stack. And composable in the sense of a conductor, of a symphony. Okay, the agility in all of that. The way you orchestrate and you basically leverage all those resources. And that's very important, because that's the world, the software world, where we see things like code and repositories and CI/CD, but also monitoring, observability, the ability to create an inventory of all your resources and plan your resources and schedule your resources and spin up resources and configure resources, all of those things. That's a composable technology stack. You need to be able to create such a composable technology stack, a stack that allows you to take an innovative idea almost on a daily basis and to deliver value by the end of the day. And of course, as we probably all know, it's not just about technology. It's very much also about people and mindset and culture. So DataMiner as an xOps platform also comes with community, engagement with people, empowering people, inspiring people, for example. And in that context, it's very important to then work in an organization that understands these dynamics. An organization where the leadership is communicating about goals. And again, goals could be anything. It's typically about better, faster, and more cost efficient, reducing cost, optimizing utilization of resources, hardening security, minimizing your footprint, or innovating your entire service offering. Doing things in a very unique way that is very appealing for customers. So, and communicating those goals is challenging all the teams that have a digital mindset that can use that composable technology stack to make things happen. Because at the end of the day, again, you will live in a world where the unexpected is very likely to happen. So the only thing that you can do is be ready for that. It could be customer expectations, the competitive landscape, technology, legislation, compliance, regulations, you name it. Everything is continuously shifting. And guess what? It's only going to get worse. Okay? So don't think that this is going to change or that you can continue to apply the old methodologies. No, we are really going into a new world, and you have to adapt to that. You have to become that butterfly. You have to really be ready to fly in the skies rather than operating on that single branch. Now, when you look at the architecture of running an xOps ecosystem, and this is what we did when we started many years ago, we looked at it and we said, okay, you have that ecosystem, you have that transformational technology capabilities, IP, cloud, virtualized products, but also people and other assets. You have a lot of things that are out there, and you need to be able to orchestrate that. You need to have technology workflows to onboard resources and offboard resources, to configure resources, to spin up resources, to do all kinds of things, okay? But it's very important to do that in a context where you really understand that you want to build a composable technology stack that allows you to benefit from all the easy stuff. The scalability, the resilience, the untapped potential, that should come easy. That's what you want to benefit from. But at the same time, you should be aware that, complexity, nonlinearity, security, a lot of different new challenges. And you should build a technology stack that allows you to benefit from all those plus, and that you don't have to have headaches every single day. And of course, it doesn't stop there. We will talk about that in just a second, but it's about digitizing your entire operation. There's also a business and operational workflows, okay? So those, and I will show you exactly how that works, we will blend them into the same digital twin, because we want to have that flexibility and that agility that we are talking about to basically expect the unexpected. And at the end of the day, it's about empowering people, employees, with goals and basically challenge them to contribute to those goals. And everybody can participate in that process, building digital relationships with external parties, optimizing the operation, making sure you use all the resources in the most optimal way, and last but not least, transforming your product. So this picture pretty much applies everywhere. You could be a smart city, you could be running a huge seaport, you could be running a media operation or a satellite operation. This is just the dynamics of the new world. And that's what the xOps platform is all about. And one more thing, maybe to look at it from a different perspective. What is xOps? xOps is always a new frontier. It's always about saying, hey, let me look at my existing legacy business and the core proposition of that business. And let me take all the key qualities and characteristics of that, but let's marry it up with the software world. Okay, and all the typical qualities and features and ways of operating in a software world, and bring them together into an xOps proposition. To give you one quick example, we have a customer here in Belgium. They are called Noven. Their classic business is consultancy. They do consultancy to build large buildings where they do the consultancy for all the heating and the cooling and the solar panels and all the energy. But rather than staying and continuing to be a consultancy company, they came up with energy as a service, or you could say energy ops, where they basically allow people to just sign a contract with them, and they take the full responsibility of doing all the installations and running those, keeping them at optimal performance, making sure that the energy utilization is really reduced, and all of those things. It's a real kind of like an Uber for an energy installation and cooling and heating and all of that. And that's the exact proposition. And you can apply it everywhere. We talked a lot about media ops within the broadcast and the media industry, where media ops is basically taking a classic business, live services, real-time operation, always on, a lot of control capabilities, timing and syncing, a lot of specialized workflows, file-based workflows, but marrying that up with all the key qualities and characteristics of a software world: data-driven, DevOps, continuous evolution, agile organizations, community, security mindset, and bringing that together. And again, every time you have a new frontier, because this is not classic software, of course. Every time you have a new domain, a new expertise where you bring those two together. And that's what we call an xOps operation. And essentially, every type of operation is going to be an xOps operation in the future. So just to conclude on that, it is very important when you build an xOps operation to really understand what the most essential important things are, okay? Because again, think about it. What sets you apart? What makes you different than anybody else in the world? It is not the fact that you will use an LLM. It is not the fact that you run on an IP stack or that you use cloud services or whatever it may be. You have the best and the latest generation of sensors. No, absolutely not. Everybody has access to those components. And at some point, everybody is going to use that, and it's going to be mainstream, and it's going to be the norm. The only thing that sets you apart is your ecosystem, your data and your controls in that environment, how you leverage that, how you can empower your organization, the people, and create the agility around that, how you can build that composable stack and be creative. And any advantage, for example, using LLMs or kind of applying a new type of sensor or whatever it may be, it could give you a competitive edge. But it's all about, are you ready? Do you have the xOps environment where you can integrate these things easily and efficiently? And you don't want to have headaches with security and integrations and having 3-6 months journey to try to do something. You want to have an environment where you can focus as much of your time and energy on the creative part, the ability to integrate those new components and to really capitalize on them for the time that you will be able to capitalize on them. So this is very important when we kind of came with the xOps proposition. How can we create an environment that is focused on exactly that? And maybe there's also one more way that I would like to look at it, to try to explain what xOps is all about. Why are so many organizations failing? Because a lot of organizations do understand that they live in a digital era and that something new is happening where all these components are digitized and that this new environment is coming to existence, and that there's far more potential there when you look at the entire environment as compared to all the individual components, and that there's so much untapped potential in there. But many organizations, while they think about unifying and integrating and bringing things together, I have seen a lot of organizations that really struggle to make progress with that. And the reason for that is, look at the options. Okay, option number one, bespoke point solutions. And what are bespoke point solutions? It's really essentially about saying, hey, I've been digitizing. I've been doing this in different pockets and different departments for different use cases. And now I need to unify. So the logical thing is, I'm going to tie it all together somehow. I'm going to tie all these NMSs and EMSs and ticketing systems and plant maintenance and system A, B, and C for digital signage. I'm going to somehow try to bring it together. These are typically situations where you see spiraling cost, continuous integration, headaches, limitations on APIs, trying to stitch things together. And even in projects where a lot of effort and time went into that, the end result is by no means anything close to an xOps proposition. And I'll show you exactly how that's going to work. But by no means I have ever seen an environment where that has been very successful. Okay. And I think it's only logical also in the sense that this seems to be the evolutionary path. Okay. This is kind of like, hey, we're a caterpillar and we're going to somehow evolve the caterpillar so that it can fly in the air. No, this is a transformation. You have to be bold. You have to rethink this. xOps is about rethinking the proposition. On the other hand, you have the custom stack solutions. Now, the custom stack solutions is all about people that do have the vision. They do understand we want to have a unified data lake. We want to bring everything together. But what we have seen there is you have to go and start working on building custom stacks. Okay, standard products, but custom stacks. And people are looking at, how do I exchange messages? Have a RabbitMQ, have an Azure Event Hub. We need to display information. We're going to take Grafana. We're going to have, TensorFlow. We need some AI. We're going to have PyTorch, and we're going to need storage and all of that, and build very complex ecosystems. At the end of the day, the purpose of it and the intention and the vision is very good. But what people don't realize is how expensive and complex this can be. And many of these projects, even in large organizations, have failed. And we can zoom into that. If you look at a bespoke solution, again, for me, that's the questionable path of evolution and optimization. We have something, and we're going to try to evolve it somehow into that next generation, that new era type of environment. It's kind of like saying the picture that you see there is a replacement of an iPhone. Okay, it does the same functions. I'm just going to take whatever the previous functions are, and I'm going to try to mash them up and bring them together. You're never really going to achieve that same result. And it's also about, even if you succeed, even if you kind of connect things together with all the limitations of APIs, and after all the security headaches and all that, you still have isolated silos. It's very expensive and difficult to cross-innovate. Data is scattered around in different platforms, in different formats. Okay, very important also is to really realize that these are generalized solutions. Okay, whatever point solutions you always buy, these are generalized solutions that everybody has. And we go into an era where the key differentiator is the creative part, the ability to innovate on your own without your vendor. It's about your ideas and your workflows and your opportunities that you want to grab. So doing that in an environment with point solutions is extremely difficult. You basically get what everybody gets, and you have to live with that. So it's not really aligned with that new era as well. So it's not aligned with your personal goals and ambitions. Innovation is very difficult. Every potential gain that you have is basically siphoned by the vendors of those point solutions. And in general, you see a spiraling cost, everywhere, where people continuously try to kind of bring that environment together. Again, for me personally, that kind of strategy is a dead end. And we do see a lot of point solutions disappearing also. Disappearing because there's new generations of technology, transformational technology, and the way an iPhone or a smartphone, for example, or an IP stack, or LLMs are basically converging technologies. They basically absorb a lot of other point solutions and bespoke solutions into that ecosystem, and that's happening as well. So more and more point solutions are disappearing. And the custom stack solutions, well, it is pretty simple. The intent is very good. Okay, I love the vision about it. But what people sometimes don't realize is, and they are not software companies, but they don't realize this is technology designed by and for the largest companies in the world. And when I say large, it's very large. Okay, any of us, even the largest companies amongst us, we're dwarfs compared to some of those companies that generate and create that technology. So you can already sense, like, maybe that's not going to be exactly the best fit for my environment. Okay, and it has a lot of similarities with software development, because at the end of the day, you will always build a bespoke ecosystem, and that ecosystem will have to be maintained. That ecosystem will have to be engineered. That ecosystem will have to be evolved. Certain technology will disappear and other technology will emerge. So it's a very time-consuming occupation. It has a very high life cycle cost, okay? And it does not meet very special purpose needs. So there's a lot of things to be said about custom stack solutions, and definitely for some companies, it's the right answer. But it's not exactly a solution that is very tailored towards that new world. You can get there, you can design it, but you have to have time and resources and expertise to be able to do that. And not everybody has that. So what is so different then about xOps? If you look at the two options that are out there and the two options that people try to leverage, well, it's a solution that is purpose designed for the actual goal. We really started off by saying data, that's the only thing that our customers, that will differentiate our customers from somebody else. You need to cherish that. You need to bring that data into a position that you can easily leverage it, that you can easily generate value from it. You need to focus on that data and the ability to convert it into value, whatever your goals are, okay? You have to really focus on agility to move in any direction. When people make increments and do things, you have to make sure they can do it continuously and they can change direction very, very quickly. So they can measure the results, they can measure the impact, they can evaluate the environment, and they can really act upon that. So it's all about being creators and innovators. That's what people are empowered to do, to create and innovate in that new world. Now, if you look at it, essentially what we're saying there is, on the right-hand side, we have do-it-yourself, the custom data-driven stack. On the left-hand side, you have the point solutions. Now, there's a few things that are very important: agility and cost of ownership. And when you look at it, do-it-yourself is very, very important. I fully agree with that. Do-it-yourself is the only way to be agile and to be unique and to differentiate yourself in that new world. So it's about being able, empowering people to be able to do that. The only question is, how much do-it-yourself do you want? If you're going to build an F1 car, you could do it yourself by starting to go for iron minerals and other minerals and dig in the ground to dig it up and to start building it. The question is, where is the value? What parts of do it yourself are very important? And in that sense, I think the xOps proposition is a solution that allows you to give your people more agility, more power to create and create more value. This is not about coding and headaches about security and storage and all those things. This is really about making the distance, the effort and the time between an ID, an innovative ID, and an outcome and value being delivered as short as possible. And on the left-hand side, of course, we have the point solutions. Again, to me, that's a dead end. Okay. Yes, there are still a lot of point solutions out there that will still be very relevant and can be integrated in these ecosystems, and they will be around for quite some time. But you continuously see convergence, and you already see a lot of point solutions that have disappeared. DataMiner was not designed to do certain things, but today people use it to be creative and to create all kinds of solutions for which they would have needed a point solution in the past. And you will see some of that. So this is really about creating the sweet spot to say, hey, we want to maximize agility and we really want to lower the TCO, the total cost of ownership. Because if you're fair and reasonable and you look at all the alternatives, the TCO on this proposition is massively lower as compared to any of the other options. And the agility and the flexibility to accelerate, to decelerate, to change direction and to deliver value is massively higher. So that's basically where the xOps proposition is sitting. So if you ask me again now, what is DataMiner as an xOps platform? I would say, number one, fast track your digital transformation. But I mean, digital transformation by itself has no value. You don't have time and resources to spend 2, 3, 4, 5 years to try to create some kind of environment that is going to allow you, because it's available off the shelf. DataMiner off the shelf is designed to digitally transform you, to put you into that new era, and to give you the capabilities and the environment to start generating unparalleled value. Because at the end of the day, also the outcome, after getting that digital transformation, the outcome, the ability and the agility that you have, I would actually claim is much higher than with any other type of ecosystem. And of course, we're still on a journey. I mean, DataMiner has always evolved over the past 20 years. And then we went through this big transformation now to make us emerge as an xOps platform. But of course, we're still on that continuous quest to look at those basic core values and to continue to build on that, to continue to accelerate our users in their innovation and in their mission. Now, how will DataMiner generate that value? Again, I'm not going to talk about features, okay? The key basic foundations that we have been building upon is, number one, empowerment. How do we empower people to very efficiently integrate and convert data and controls into real value? That's a key focus that we had from the very start and that we will continue to have in the coming years. How can we build capabilities and tools and features that empower people to really do that as efficiently as possible, as quickly as possible? Your time is limited. We want to maximize your value delivery. Number two, continuous evolution. Continuous evolution is so important in the new world. It's about reevaluating where you are. And again, everything is continuously shifting and changing. The geopolitical landscape, the competitive landscape, the technology landscape, you name it, business models, everything is continuously shifting. So you have to have that ability to continuously evaluate and move forward, okay? Understand your goals and contribute to that. Continuous evolution is reflected throughout the entire xOps platform that DataMiner is. Continuous evolution is top of mind. And last but not least, dealing with challenges by design. In other words, we don't want people to have headaches about security, about complexity, for example, about data ownership and where data resides and what format it has. Those are things that are just wasted time and energy. So an xOps platform is entirely geared towards making sure that this is being dealt with as much as possible out of the box. And for example, that includes AI functions and all of that, and we can talk about that. But that's essentially, what we do. Now, let's take a closer look. How does that work and how do we do that? Now, first of all, of course, it starts with data collection and control plane. And very important here, I just want to emphasize that very much because I've seen that in a lot of custom stack solutions. People are struggling a lot with that. Data and control, those are two sides of the same coin. In a dynamic environment, if you start orchestrating and you have that dynamic in there, monitoring and control is basically going together. Data collection and control go hand in hand. Whatever changes, data collection needs to be aware of that. If you do that with different technologies and different branches and isolated silos, you end up with a lot of integration headaches to make that work. So data collection, of course, it's our foundation. I mean, there's no other platform in the world that has ever proven to be so powerful when it comes to being able to integrate data and controls. You can take a legacy PLC controller with an RS-232, 485 type of interface, Modbus, TCP, SNMP, HTTP type of interfaces, RESTful interfaces, you name it. Okay, we have done it. In DataMiner, it's all about having the guarantee that whatever you have out there, it could be in the cloud, could be on-prem, could be hardware, could be software, could be databases, could be files, could be an API for weather data from the internet. We don't care. Okay, it is basically the most powerful platform in the industry to give you the guarantee that you can interface with anything and ingest everything. And of course, it's completely open architecture. People can have the benefit of having all these connectors. And we have two types of connectors. The classic connector, the standard DataMiner connector, very comprehensive for all the modeling of the data, because it's not just about bringing in data. You have to properly model it to be able to do resource management and orchestration and all those things. There's a lot more to it. And then we also have the data sources. The data sources is kind of the quick way of bringing some more trivial data into your platform. You want to have some weather data from an API on the internet because you want to blend that into your ecosystem and make smart decisions with that. You're going to do that in 10 minutes. You're just going to write a little bit of Python code or whatever, or maybe you're going to use an LLM or ChatGPT or whatever to generate that. And in no time, you're going to bring that data into your platform and you can start using it. But DataMiner is also the platform that has over 8,000 existing integrations. It has a catalog where people can, with a single click, bring one of those connectors into their operation and start using it. So it's a very easy and accessible environment. And of course, if you want to develop full-blown connectors, you can do it because we have a full development environment based on industry standard tools. Visual Studio with all the features and capabilities in Visual Studio, including also LLMs. And you can create and design, for example, new connectors. And you can basically build an industry standard CI/CD pipelines. And also, for example, that specific component is very easy. You can literally set up a DataMiner system in a matter of half an hour. Set up a DataMiner system, set up an industry standard CI/CD pipeline, connect it to your development environment, and start collaborating with multiple developers to start making that happen. So the whole data and control plane is one of the most basic foundations that you need to get started with this xOps stack. And that's exactly what DataMiner does. But there's more to it, of course. On top of that, we have our digital twin. Our digital twin is kind of like, if you look into the memory of DataMiner, you have a standardized, unified, secure digital copy of your organization, all your assets and all your data. It's very easy. It's very straightforward. Once the integration is done, it's all sitting there on that digital twin. And it's not only about live data. Of course, we have sensors, we have machinery in factories, for example. You could have digital signage. You could have cameras and encoders and satellite uplinks. It doesn't matter. Okay, everything is there, the live technology data, including all the control capabilities. But we also have that second layer there, because every organization, of course, relies on constructs that help us to organize everything, both on an operational and a business layer. And for example, in an operation, that would be tickets or schedules or plant maintenance records or buildings and racks and IP addresses and domains and departments and people and teams. Those are things that we need to organize ourselves. And on the business side of things, we would have contracts and customers and SLAs and rate cards and inventory. Guess what? In DataMiner, we have these object modeling capabilities, which allow us and even allows you, yourself, without any help of Skyline, of introducing those constructs into that digital twin. So in other words, DataMiner allows you to digitize your entire organization, whether you're a smart city or a seaport or a media operation or a satellite operation, it doesn't really matter. Whatever you are, you can digitize the full scope of your environment, okay? And you can bring that into that same digital twin. Now, does that mean it's replacing everything? No, by no means. You have the ability to integrate with existing point solutions where necessary. So you can always have that decision. It's about modular choices, of course. And either you can build it and run it natively into DataMiner, or you could also go and make an integration through those connectors with those third-party ticketing systems, for example, or plant maintenance systems, whatever it may be, and basically connect it to that same digital twin. But the key point is we have that unified digital twin. And on top of that digital twin, we have, of course, all the workflows and everything, and we don't have time to go in all the details, but one of the key things is the user-definable apps. So this is low code. This is about people being able to create apps very quickly on top of that digital twin. And you can see some examples there, and this is just the tip of the iceberg because there's so many apps appearing already. But the whole concept is very simple. Me as a creator with an innovative idea, and whether I need to do planning or scheduling or inventory or whatever I need to design or create, I can do it very quickly. I have that digital twin sitting in the back, and this is a very simple example of somebody who created a first version of a very basic ticketing system. And you can see already, this is something that we can integrate with an existing ticketing system, or you could say, hey, I'm kind of happy with the basic functionality that I have here, and I don't need a specific point solution anymore. And it doesn't matter what you choose. The relevance is that all the data, including that ticket information, is sitting in that digital twin, that unified real-time updated digital twin. And this is a low-code app. Nobody wrote any lines of programming, and somebody created a first kind of user interface for this. And this user interface allows me to browse my tickets. I can look at the details and pay attention over here. As you see, these are the affected resources, but guess what? This is the actual status. The green light indicates the actual current live status of that specific resource. And you can see already this is because I work with that unified digital twin. I can pick any data that is relevant for the task or the use case or the persona that I'm building this app for. So this is a game changer, being able to bring that into the same environment. And it's not only that, it's about all the principles that I explained to you. For example, I get feedback. I'm a DataMiner DevOps engineer, and I get feedback that people need to be able to call somebody very quickly. It's a small change for me. I open the low-code app, and I'm just going to add in here, for example, an additional menu. And maybe I'm going to split it up between IT contacts and 24/7 contacts or whatever it may be. It's a small change, okay? And maybe over here, we're going to show you how you can go to the widgets. But more interestingly, on the right-hand side, that's my full digital twin. I have every data in there. It could be temperature, it could be a bit rate, it could be a phone number, it could be a contract number or a task or a schedule. It doesn't matter. You drag and drop it. You choose a graphical presentation. And in this case, it's a real-time metric. And you can actually see how it's already live updated. It's already connected to the real life equipment. And that's how you build low-code apps. In no time, as a DevOps engineer, I can get feedback. This is going to save you, a fraction of time. Great, let's do it. And as soon as you do it, you will see, for example, that we have this seamless version control system in there. Again, it's about continuous evolution. It's one of the key foundations of an xOps platform. It creates all these versions automatically in the background. So I can develop, I can evolve, I can evaluate it while my colleagues are still on the current production version. If I'm happy, with a single click, I'm going to make it available to them. So it's about those small details. And there's hundreds and thousands of examples because it's much more than just low-code apps, of course. But these are small examples of how we apply all those principles, empowering people, continuous evolution, dealing with complexity, by design, making sure that you don't have to spend time on that. So those are quick examples. And of course, it's about much more. It's not only about technology, actually. As a matter of fact, when we talk about empowering people, we have this very lively community with thousands of people around the world, and they can interact with everybody at Skyline continuously about how can I do this, how can I do that, get feedback. That's also agility, for example. It's about training courses. It's about Jan Stalens, who's very well known by now in the community, who brings you every single week new things, new inspiration, how to do things. It's about extensive documentation. And again, it's about that catalog, for example, a catalog with all that is growing very, very quickly, with all kinds of samples and examples and things to accelerate people, for example, to be able to create even more efficiently. And at the end of the day, yes, we are also building standard solutions. People that work in the media industry know very well that with these capabilities, we basically designed a next generation scheduling and planning capability, which is completely different than anything they've ever seen before. It's much more powerful and it offers you so many benefits, but it's a standard solution. So rather than designing it from scratch, you have the ability to download and install that, but it's completely designed with those low code app capabilities, our automation and everything, so that you have still the creative freedom to change it and evolve it the way you want it and the way you like it. So there's a lot of details that go with it. Again, it's about being open by design for this do-it-yourself capability, which is key strategic. Okay, we have to all acknowledge that. And I know some people sometimes don't like it. They're like, we're not a software company. Okay, we don't want to be a software company, but you're moving into a new world. That certain aspect of do-it-yourself is so critical to your agility, your innovation, your differentiation, versus other environments. That's key to this new environment. But indeed, open by design and at the same time powerful by nature, dealing with complexity, security, and all those things by design. So it's about maximum creative freedom. It's about standard solutions. It's about the power of community. Again and again and again, it's the same basic principles. And DataMiner brings it all into one proposition, that xOps stack. And again, it's about much more. For example, I only showed you some of the low-code apps and what that means in this environment, and it sits on that digital twin. But for example, in DataMiner, with a single click, you can connect it to Microsoft Teams. And you can bring all the data and information rather than through a dedicated low-code app. You can bring it easily to people through Microsoft Teams within the collaboration context. If you need platform to platform rather than platform to user interface or to Teams, you have our concept of user-defined APIs, also a very powerful concept that allows you to receive a request from a colleague to bring some data from that digital twin into his own software or point solution or whatever it may be, and to literally be able to do that in a matter of hours rather than weeks. It's a very powerful concept. And of course, there's also things like, for example, our built-in AI functions out of the box. And this is about dealing with complexity. Out of the box, being able to do forecasting, to be able to do anomaly detection. This is, for example, a real-life anomaly detection where somebody very simply forgot to put a faceplate into a rack, which created an anomaly in the temperature, which was immediately detected by the AI. And there's going to be more sophisticated things because, again, we went through this transformation and DataMiner is now emerging as an xOps platform. But we continue that journey based on all the values that I kind of explained over here, because we feel that this is the key strategic things that you need to be successful in the new world that is emerging. And some of the fine-tuning and evolutions that we are doing is, for example, also integrations with LLMs. And you can see that on this example over here, where I go to my digital twin and I can just go in there and, for example, use human language, natural language to make a query and to communicate with my digital twin and to automatically translate that into an interaction with that digital twin. So those are things that we are working on, and those are things that we're going to deliver to our user base in the coming months and the coming years. That kind of focus is there to accelerate our users and to focus on the value creation, because it's not about using the LLM. It's about leveraging the LLM on top of your data and your environment and your ecosystem. That's what sets you apart. And at the end of the day, I also want to emphasize that DataMiner is not necessarily in the business of starting to replace everything, okay? It's an xOps platform. And the real focus is being able to consolidate and digitize your entire ecosystem. And sometimes you will interface with existing point solutions. If in a certain domain you're using Ansible, for example, for orchestration or automation, and you're happy with that, DataMiner will interface with that. And in other domains, you experience certain challenges and you will dig deep with DataMiner down to the fabric. So it's all about bringing everything together into one unified ecosystem. That's the key proposition of this xOps platform, and to empower you and to really give you that continuous evolution capability. Ultimately, you can look at any organization and people will have different focuses. But if you digitize an ecosystem, it's about the same things over and over again. It's about inventory. I have rooms, I have people, I have capacity, I have bandwidth, I have IP addresses, I have hardware devices and cloud resources and licenses. It's about mapping all out, all those assets and digitizing the entire operation, being able to easily design and plan and reserve resources so you can use them in a very dynamic, automated fashion to do scheduling, to deploy new resources, to orchestrate resources, to configure them, to validate configurations, to control live services, for example, to be able to monitor them, to observe them, to automate, for example, failovers and redundancies, and anything that you can imagine. And after that, do reporting and analysis and optimizing and forecasting. That entire chain of events, that's something that you find everywhere. And it might be a little bit abstract, but it really truly applies, whether you're a seaport or a smart city or a factory or a media operation or satellite operation or a network operation. It's always the same dynamics, the same type of key objectives that you have to go after. So I'm going to have to wrap it up. It was a quick introduction, and I know I didn't go much into features and capabilities and all that, but I think it's much more important to understand the essence of an xOps platform, to understand that digital transformation is nearing to an end. We are really, truly waking up in the data-driven era. I would actually say we are there. We see the first native companies that originate in there. We experience the new dynamics in this. And again, it's all about building that new stack. You have goals. You want to deliver value to that. And for that, you need an agile culture. You need a composable technology stack. You need to be able to have a unified, digitized version of your entire ecosystem across operation, across business, across live technology and sensors and all of that. And you need to be able to bring it all together in an environment where people can create and design. And as much of their time and energy should go right into that, being able to deliver that value and to flourish and leverage that new world, that new ecosystem that we will find ourselves in. So that's it. I'm going to wrap it up. I think it's very exciting times. We're really looking forward to the coming years. So we see a lot of innovation happening across many different industries. We see a very vibrant DevOps community around DataMiner that is growing very quickly. We see new verticals emerging everywhere because, again, it's about the same principles. So we're very, very excited, and we're hoping to welcome you in that world and to really work together on innovating and changing and redefining companies, industries, and cities. Thank you very much, and have a great day.